meet a whole group of people there.
You need help getting connected and baby stuff?
Yeah, like got out of the bus and then like, hey, it's this. Over here. They found it humorous, like how half the city is over there. And then we were like sitting.
No, can we try one more time because they just connected us and we got to here.
I got some hardball questions.
Yeah, good to see you.
How are you?
This is Shell.
In case we get videos, anything like that. There's a number of reasons why I need to go to media that I don't have. Yeah, so what else? Yeah, I'll do the thing. Explain like unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, there's a button to stick in the video.
Yeah, like you know,
I'm supposed to be getting
the bus was so hot. Yeah. I was trying to get with her for water.
I knew there was. We do have a clicker. All right, very good. The center button is advanced and go back.
Yeah, big to go forward, little to go back, and this is laser.
Okay, great.
Is this microphone needed to require anything else?
We didn't make it outside. We needed
Yeah, Joe said, oh, that's nice.
When are you up? You're number 2?
Two, and then that's who I got everybody. It's great.
Did I ever connect you with Brown? Why don't you should Peter?
We were just talking about this guy. He was like, he's like the business development guy. We crossed paths a lot, but now we took a job. Office from scratch. Yeah.
Frank told me to talk to him.
I'm in New York, so all he does is every day. Okay, so they have.
Somebody goes, yeah, right?
All of us.
Definitely like an attention grabber.
So it's
Yeah.
We'll like his food.
I was like, it's so funny. And then I got kicked out. We went up to it's like, no.
Yeah, I was in there thing.
Yeah, great. My name's Katy Daiell, and I'm a partner at Markham LLP, which is a full-service accounting and advisory firm. And we have our New England region headquarters right here in New Haven. So I also serve as our technology and life science industry leader here in New England. And today we have a fantastic group of people who are going to come up and pitch their company. Now, each speaker has 5 minutes exactly. We have a little timer here. I'm told it's very loud and obnoxious, so they will know exactly when to stop. So with that, let's get started right away, and we're going to have Niel Burns come up and tell us about science.
Ready to go. Good afternoon, welcome everybody. There is a lot right about the photograph behind it. A lot of things that are right about it. 2 entrepreneurs, one in her early 20s, the other in her early 40s. A combined net worth there of about $2.5 billion. Earned in the fields of cosmetics, primarily, and fashion. That's to say nothing of the influence on the culture. Also a few things wrong with this photograph. First thing I'll draw your attention to, and it should be pretty obvious looking at what's on the screen, is silicone. There's a lot of silicone represented. And most of it is not where you think it is. Most of it is not in the foundation, in the lipstick, in the lip liner, in the lip oil, in the eyeliner, in the eyebrow pencil, in the eyeshadow. It's not even mostly in the sunscreen. Some of you know the answer to what I'm getting at. There's an awful lot of silicone in the hair. And it's there by virtue of its use in shampoo and conditioner. Okay, so what's wrong with that? I said there was something wrong. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it is that silicone is one of those ingredients that's used everywhere, especially in cosmetics and personal care. And it happens to be, among other things, what's known as a persistent organic pollutant. What does that mean? It means it persists in the environment. It stays around for an awfully long time. So after you've used it in the shower for what, 30 seconds, and it goes down the drain, it stays around for a lot longer than you're staying around. Hate to break it to you. It's going to be around for thousands of years in the environment. It persists. And that's problematic. How's that relevant to P2? We work in the field of cosmetics and personal care and fashion to bring to the market ingredients that are, what we like to say, 3 times better. That is, they're better for you as a consumer, they're better for the environment, and they're better performing. And that third one is extremely important. They perform for the consumer as well as bring benefits for health and the environment. And we do that by building on 3 pillars. We have our innovation factory, powered by artificial intelligence and a university partnership. We have our renewable polymer platform, renewable ingredients for polymers which go into the fibers that make clothing. And thirdly, our most active business at the moment, ingredients for cosmetics and personal care, for beauty. And the more cultural astute among you will have noticed that we have on the slide our third Kardashian of the day, Kendall Jenner, the highest grossing model for 4 years running in the world, happens to be a spokesperson for Chanel, one of our investors, and Estee Lauder, one of our customers. So, the key statistics here, we are early stage, around $1 million in annual revenue run rate. We got Connecticut manufacturing, we're here to stay, as Ned Lamont encouraged us. We have a C round that's open for top-up, the tune of $5 million. That's led by Lewis and Clark, Agri-Food Fund. You can Google them, see what they're all about. If there's interest in what we're doing, that's how you get in touch. There's my 5 minutes.
We don't have any formal Q&A session. You'll have to speak with the presenters afterwards. Great, thank you, Niel. So next up we have Marissa Fayer with Deep Look Medical.
That's nice.
So here. So over here. Hi everybody, I'm Marissa Fayer, the CEO of Deep Medical, where we are revolutionizing oncology and cancer treatment and detection with an FDA-cleared software technology. 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer, and quite honestly, it's the second leading cause of cancer for all women. I'm normally standing on this side, so I'm going to stand over here. 40% of all women around the world have dense breasts, including disproportionately Black women, Asian women, and Jewish women, myself included. Unfortunately, that creates 50% more cancers, both because you can't see it and just genetics. This is not a niche. I know women's health is everyone considers a niche. Quite honestly, in breast cancer, breast imaging alone, it's a $4.7 billion industry. So what we've done at Deep Medical is that we have a one-click measurement and segmentation tool, and we can visualize the masses with calibrated color. The interesting part is that our FDA clearance is across the entire imaging platform for mammography, ultrasound, MRI, CT, and across all health conditions. So this is just the first. What we do is we are a direct overlay on top of other software technologies that is already at every hospital, every mammography, every work screen. And we're an efficiency workflow tool so that we can visualize, segment, and show you what is happening inside. The core of the color, that's density, which is indicative of cancer. We are not decision support. We are a visualization tool that helps doctors do their job better and more efficiently. And quite honestly, we all know that needs to happen because our healthcare system needs help, and the radiologists and the oncologists, they need help to see all the patients that they need to. I know we are limited in time, so I'm not going through past milestones, but we have partners with contracts already in place. Barco owns 90% of the medical mammography market. We're partners with them. They're a billion-dollar company. Arteris, an AI platform that is in 700 just in the U.S. cancer centers. We're partners with them to use their tool across the entire suite. And with Radical Imaging, which is developing one of the OHIP viewers, and they're an incredible software company that has worked in the entire medical imaging suite. We have continuous studies going at White Plains Hospital in New York and Emory University, and hopefully, here in Yale. We have multiple ways that we're making revenue, because actually we will be revenue generating at the end of this year in Q4. So we have channel partner fees, report fees in the future for analytical and longitudinal reports, and we do software licensing of our technology if it's not something that we're going to develop core for ourselves. Some of the really exciting facts is that we're still continuously fundraising, as any good startup will. But we have announced our commercial launch with our partner Barco. We are filing our second 510K application for expanded claims and new products, which is exciting. We're going international as well, starting with the UK and Israel as they take US FDA approvals, and then we're applying for our CE mark. And we're going to have a lot of really interesting data coming out of our studies with Emory universities. And so, as a woman, I know this slide does not look good. Let me be clear. I'm very clear. I'm working to change that. I came in to take over as CEO in August of last year. 2 of these gentlemen are our co-founders, so it's great that they're staying with us. I've brought in significant women into the board, onto the advisory board, and our scientific advisory board as well. We're raising $2 million. This is an outdated number as we're up to $900,000 in the seed round right now. It's all done under a convertible note. We want to really expand and grow and just expand our company, other health areas, other claims, maybe decision support in the future. And for us, listen, we're an experienced management team. I come out of healthcare imaging, especially the breast care industry, for many, many years. I've been in healthcare for 23 years, and we are growing. We're 510K approved, patent protected. Our competitors are actually our customers. We're planning for an exit, hopefully in a year and a half, 2 years, so we're taking that strategic pathway.
We have commercial contracts that are signed, and we're raising capital for us to grow and get to revenue generation that'll support that. Please reach out.
Great, thank you, Marissa. Next we have Blake Walker with Inbox Health.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Blake. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Inbox Health. We are a patient communication platform for medical billing teams. We've got a really unique go-to-market methodology where we sell through these third-party billing companies and really change and evolve how they communicate with patients about the money they owe. I'm sure as patients, we've all experienced how terrible the medical billing payment process can be. And even more difficult if you have questions about your bill and need to actually get someone on the phone to ask them. We are at the forefront of solving that. We're about $11 million revenue run rate. We're located right here in New Haven, about 60 employees in the U.S., and about 2,500 practices using the Inbox Health platform today, all across America. Growing quite fast. And you see down the bottom, I don't think these are name brands that anyone's going to be familiar with, but these billing companies are really central to how all the small practices across America do a lot of their back office work. And so their names we're not familiar with, but they're very impactful. And I think hopefully you'll come away with at least that takeaway today. For example, Red House Medical Billing is the back office billing for more than 150 practices all across the United States. Really essential services that allow providers to stay and remain independent and successful in a really challenging environment to practice medicine in. Over the last 20 years, how we pay for healthcare has changed really dramatically. I think most of you probably have at least some awareness of that. About $500 billion will be transacted between patients and providers this year, and it'll be done so in a really, really inefficient way. A lot of it goes unpaid that patients owe but don't pay. Providers don't know how to deal with that effectively. A lot of it's transacted on paper. Both the communication out to the patients is often paper-based, and often the payments back to the provider are also paper-based. So there's a lot of frustration and waste, both on the provider side and on the patient side. But I think what was really overlooked for many years as this space evolved was that these billing entities were really at the forefront of it, and really the ones suffering a lot of pain. So we built a platform specifically for these billing entities who are in the back office doing all of the communication with patients. And we don't really know who they are because it's white labeled. You know, it's the practice, but it's not the practice. It's some billing office that's representing the practice and doing all that communication for them. So we built a platform to help those third-party entities better communicate with patients using much more efficient omni-channel methodologies driven by the data that we have about the patients, and creating better tools for them to support the patients as the patients have questions, and those billing entities need to be able to answer those questions efficiently. And they can't really do that effectively today. So these billing companies, who are they? There's about 10,000 billing companies in America. It's a very commonly started small business. It's actually one of the most commonly started small businesses in America. You'll see someone start up and they'll be billing for 3 or 4 practices, and you'll find out that your cousin owns a billing company after today when you go home. There's 10,000 of these people, and they're billing for 150,000 practices all across America. So that means essentially every year, half of America is interacting with these billing companies in some way. But no one's really paying attention to them. What they're using is often these practice management softwares that are built for small practices. They're not built for the billing companies, they're built for a small practice with 2 or 3 employees oftentimes. And they're often using 4 or 5 different billing softwares in their office at the same time, which makes it really difficult for them to change their process because they have 4 or 5 different processes going on. So the first challenge that we met when we went to try to innovate in the space was we need to integrate with all of these different softwares, and it's not the easiest thing to do. So we've invested quite heavily since our seed round back in 2018 in integrating with this entire ecosystem that the billing companies live in to be able to build on top of it a more efficient communication platform. So there's essentially 2 parts to this: how the billers better communicate with patients, and then how the patients experience their bill itself. From the billing company perspective, they need to do 2 things. They need to better reach patients, Using the data we have, we let them communicate with patients using a combination of digital and paper communication channels. Much more efficient. We get the patients to pay 4 times faster. The billers are spending less. They're wasting way less paper. And they're collecting more on behalf of their practices, which is important. Also, the patients are having a better experience at the same time. On the other side of that, the billing company needs to answer all of these patient questions. So patients have a ton of questions now. They only have a phone system to deal with that today. You can't go buy Zendesk and implement it. They need a tool that's integrated with their system. So we've built that. And for the patients, we're helping give them a clear, more transparent experience as well, and giving them more payment options. Affordability is a huge part of the problem here, and we're trying to be at the forefront of addressing that. We're a very fast-growing business, as I mentioned early on. We have about 2,500 practices on the platform now. We just raised a $22 million Series B round. We'll continue to be investing in New Haven in the coming years. We don't need investment right now, but please reach out if you're interested in partnering in any way. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Liz. And now we have Llyod O'Connor with cases.
You're going to put it in the picture now. I'm sorry.
So, large button to advance. You can go back with this, and there's a laser on the top. Sorry. This doesn't resolve in a minute. Can you call this number for me? Can you call now?
I'm just going to start moving my hands around and talking generally. So don't worry. So we have a slight technical glitch here. And the topic we're going to talk about today is cybersecurity. So everyone in this room should be absolutely mortified by the time you leave. So that's just to sort of set expectations. Okay. In fact, they've got to me already, and I haven't even started. Exactly.
Oh, we haven't even started your time yet. Don't worry. Here we go. Still not working.
Anticevic is working. As an enrollment.
Okay.
Can you do it here or something?
Try. Still not showing those yet.
We won't start your 5 minutes. We'll start talking. So you've got some extra time if you want to go ahead.
increase the prevalence of skills when you start treating growth. Sometimes you don't see forward easier to monitor over time as needed.
I'll try to download it. Here we go. I got Here we go. You got it.
Ready? Go. Okay, guys, good afternoon. My name is Llyod. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to inspire you around something called identity instrumentation. So let's just set the stage of what's really going on in the world of cybersecurity. So, I think you're all familiar with this. Security incidents continue to make the news. Interestingly, for all of you, 85% of these breaches are caused by unauthorized access. That means bad guys getting hold of your technology, you didn't even know it, and they've compromised your environment. The top and bottom of this is today, companies, small, big, large, run a number of systems in their environment. And I suspect if you talk to your IT manager or chief information security officer and say, do you really know who's connected to your systems? And what would they say? Yes. The fact of the matter is, you can't protect what you can't see. So probably about 80% of the systems that your company's running today are invisible to the company and your infrastructure teams. And it's not due to an inability of identity tools. The real challenge is revealing hidden access. So what the company ACES does today, we reimagine access management as a data challenge instead of a tooling constraint. I had the good fortune to work for a very, very large company that was actually tipped over by an adversary. I was dragged into the boardroom because I had nothing to do with the problem, and they said, Lloyd, what happened? And I said, look, really, they said we've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in the gear to kind of instrument the environment, yet we didn't know it happened. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, we don't know, we're asking you. And I said, well, the answer to that test is your applications, your payment systems, your trade systems, your finance systems are not connected to your control system. That would apply to a little company, mid-sized company, and big companies as well. So that's the problem to be solved. So what we've done today, the process today to connect those systems to the controls typically takes 6 months per system. For a large company that I work for, it was going to take 30 years and $3 billion to connect their systems to their controllers. We do that instantly. We reveal the data silos, and we connect you within minutes, not months and years. So what does the platform do? It does 3 things really, really amazingly well. First of all, it reveals hidden access across a company's many data silos. Data can exist in the cloud, it can exist in your data center, it can exist in a software by service application. Anomaly detection. Most anomalies go undetected. The firm I worked for, it took them 6 months to figure out they'd been breached. We do that in real time, thereby mitigating the risk of unauthorized access. The third thing we do, and it's really, really important for all of you, irrespective of the company you work for, establishing user access data as a first-class citizen. I'll explain what that is in just a brief moment. So, the technology we've developed, if you were to believe me, which I don't expect you to, these guys, however, are pretty much expert in their fields. Any large cyber installation that goes live is typically run by one of these big companies. And these are some of the comments that they've shared with us. Totally inspired. They've never seen this level of innovation in the last 25 years since computers were invented. So this gives you a sense of the market, where it is and where it's going. Allegedly, from industry kind of geniuses, it's growing at about 14% CAGR. So that's kind of an impressive statistic. It's going to grow from here to there by 2030 to the number on the right-hand side. So it's a massive, massive issue, the world of identity. Importantly, our technology is accretive to the growth of the technology platform. We do not cannibalize existing revenues from trusted partners, or we do not hurt existing software providers. We are accretive to the growth of the platform. In terms of the future vision, just to give you a sense, the right-hand picture on the right-hand side is what your companies look like today. Fragmented environment, nothing speaks to anything. Establishing data as a first-class citizen, and you hit the return key, you bring it all together. Data, access data is at the center of your world. The last few seconds, just to give you a sense of the team we put together. We have a world-class team. We have a number of executives who are on the leading control system platforms in the world called SailPoint. And we're also blessed by having a very senior advisor. Some of you may know him, Gary Kahn. He holds a number of important positions. That's it. Thank you.
The next one has Deng Xiao with 30K logo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Still thinking. Let's try again. There we go. So let's go up here. Yep. Good.
Great. So my name is Zhong Shao. I'm actually a professor of computer science at Yale. I've been in the department here for the last 2 years. My student and I started this company called Anticevic, which is trying to secure the Web3 world. So if you have heard in previous talks, there's a lot of pain with cybersecurity. And in the world of blockchain, it's particularly bad. I mean, of course, everybody has heard enough stories about all the recent incidents in the world. But if you actually look at the financial loss in the blockchain world, in 2002, there's a program error related to programmer error. There's about $3 billion. So even though there's lots of new things coming out in the blockchain and AI world, the impact of cybersecurity bugs is great. So it's actually, you can just look at some of the recent quote from, this is what Daiell said. Still, to when holding digital cyber assets at a time when cyber offense is much more powerful than cyber defense, the cyber risk is the risk I cannot ignore. So this is bigger issues. We have already talked about the cost in securing the traditional safety critical software, but in the blockchain Web3 world, it's actually much worse because all the code are actually, once you deploy it, you cannot change the code. They are open source. People have an incentive to hack into these systems because you can actually get a huge reward. So this is really the kind of a challenge we hit. So my group at Yale has been working on new technologies called formal verification, which is trying to prove all these code actually is free of bugs. So the company was actually founded 5 years ago in 2018, which by me and my student Ronghui, who is now a professor at Columbia. So we were building on top of the technology we created at Yale called the Certicos, which is formally verified operating systems, and it's actually being used in many different academic and defense communities. So the certificate itself actually tried to provide the security guarantee for many of the new smart contracts and many of the blockchain startups. And in the last few years, we have secured about $300 billion of asset. And we have roughly 30% market share of all audited Web3 projects. And about audit, we performed like 5,000 audits and 60,000 vulnerability detected. So if you go to actually main website like CoinMarketCap, you can see that about top 200 we actually audited about 65% of all the companies. You can actually see the tag audited by Certic on many of these companies listed. So in our company, we actually provide technologies from three aspects. First one is to do audit, when you get some code, you actually try to look through these code using these different tools, AI, ML to formal verification, expert reviews. We audit about 200 smart contracts monthly or projects, and we auditing 5 million lines of code monthly. So after you did the auditing report, so this is like the tools we use. After you did the auditing report, you actually also launch it, and then we have a Skynet, which is a dynamic monitoring system. So we're not just, when we do the audit, every time the vendor needs to change their code, they have to kind of go through our audit process again. Once you launch it, you run it, we actually have a dynamic monitoring tools to see whether it's running properly. And so we perform these different dynamic check because all the blockchain code are available on the internet, so you can actually look at their logs. We draw these diagrams and we provide these reports. And then we accumulate and put all these things together in a security leaderboard, which is actually a transparent service offered to the entire community, blockchain community. So if you go to our Certic website, you can see about 10,000 listed projects, and every project is given a number, so that even if you don't quite know security, you can see whether a security company has 90 points versus 60 points. You click on it, you can see very detailed reports. So we have already gotten lots of investment from reputable investors, and so if you have interest to pursue the next stage of where our company goes, feel free to contact us.
I asked the IT guys to hear.
Stuart Campbell with Appropriate LLC.
Big circle of doom.
Is that because your slice is a little bit larger than others?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Stuart Campbell. I'm an associate professor in biomedical engineering here at Yale. And in 2018, I co-founded Propria, which is a company that works on commercializing technology from my lab that enables us to build human-engineered heart tissues for use primarily in pharmaceutical research. When we started the company, we were focusing on the conundrum that you see here in this slide. There were a number of companies at the time that were developing a new class of therapies that were targeted specifically at heart muscle. These activities begin with work in high-throughput biochemical screens, followed by assays in isolated animal cells, cardiomyocytes. The problem that companies faced was then making the jump to animal models, which are much more expensive, and you can't carry too many genetic compounds into that expensive process. So what we aim to do is to actually fill the gap in this development funnel by creating these engineered human heart tissues that provide companies with detailed contractility tests in mechanically loaded tissues. And what we were able to do at Propria was to streamline technology from my lab that enables you to generate thin strips of engineered human myocardium from iPS-derived cardiomyocytes, which are then placed into these scaffolds, which we call myopods. These cassettes that then carry a thin human-based tissue are able to be inserted into the MyoLab system. I'm not sure there we go. The MyoLab analyzer, which then gives you high-resolution isometric twitch contractions. So this enables you to test your drug compound in a human context with very high fidelity results before you have to make the jump to animal models and eventually clinical models. So in Brantford, just a couple of towns over from where we are right now, we now have sort of a lab set up with several of these instruments in parallel. We take in compounds from pharmaceutical companies. We generate these engineered heart tissues. You can see we just placed one of these tissues in its cassette inside of the MyoLab analyzer. And then we're able to flow drug compounds onto these tissues and register in real time the response of the muscle to those compounds. There are a few things that set our technology apart from other engineered human heart tissue systems that are out there. One of them is that these constructs are incredibly thin. So the way that they're engineered makes them the thinnest on the market. If you're trying to test a drug or if you're trying to apply a gene therapy, you need ready access in terms of diffusion to the cells that make up that tissue. The other thing we can do is we can actually stretch these tissues as they're contracting, and we can check how much contractile reserve they have. When you're exercising, your heart receives more blood back from the peripheral tissues, which causes the heart to stretch, and then the heart has to contract harder to deal with that increased blood flow. We can actually characterize the sensitivity of the tissue in combination with drug treatments and expose responses to drugs that may not be otherwise obvious. So I'll skip ahead here. We now have the capacity to test multiple drugs at the same time in our facility in Brantford, and have at any given time a lot of parallel ongoing studies with major drug companies. This is an example of some of the data that we can get that exposes differences in drugs. These, you'll see the red data and the blue data are responses to two different drugs, both of which are in clinical trials right now, for increasing the contractile strength of heart muscle. By stretching our tissues while testing the effects of these two drugs, we actually were able to expose the fact that one of these drugs enhances the stretch sensitivity of cardiac muscle, while the other actually does the opposite. And it now appears that the drug shown in red is outpacing the other in terms of clinical efficacy. So if you could find that out earlier in the pipeline, that's obviously very valuable. So as I mentioned, our primary users of the technology right now are pharmaceutical companies that are sending us their drugs to validate their performance and efficacy. We're also beginning to grow rapidly in the arena of cardiac gene therapy development. So we recently had one of our partners present the first data available in terms of testing a cardiac gene therapy for an inherited cardiomyopathy in vitro. And finally, we're starting to grow into the area of cardiotoxicity. So using this system to be able to detect cardiotoxic effects of new compounds. We're not currently seeking investment, but we're always looking for other companies to partner with, pharmaceutical companies or other biotech companies. Be happy to talk. Thank you.
Okay, now we have Mike Theran with Charisma.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Mike Theran. I'm the CEO of Charisma MCS Systems. MCS stands for Mechanical Circulation Support. And that's exactly what we do. We're making a device that provides mechanical circulation support for patients with heart failure. Heart failure is a highly prevalent disease. I'm sure you're aware of that. We've raised a lot of money to date in our Series A. I'm proud to say that we're a Yale and University of Washington spin-out, a portfolio company of Connecticut Innovations, and our strategic partner, Grand Pharmaceutical Group, is our major investor. They're also our distribution partner in China and the China area when we have our product ready. I'm proud that I have a number of my investors and advisors here. Thank you for attending. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. So what do? We're trying to address this problem. Heart failure is a big problem. It's a prevalent disease and it's an expensive disease. What's happening in the future, there's going to be more people with the problem and it's getting more expensive to treat each patient. So it's really on an unsustainable path. Current standard of care is LVADs. LVADs are highly invasive. It's the highest reimbursed procedure, and yet hospitals struggle to keep their LVAD programs profitable. It's not fully implanted. It's an awkward drive line that comes from the patient's stomach for the rest of their life. I believe that it is a ripe market for disruption. So what we're offering is a fully implanted device, no awkward drive line. It's minimally invasive, and it's for all class 3 and 4 patients. I know a lot of you might not know those categorizations, but it broadens the market. It's for systolic and diastolic heart failure patients. It's a big market, and it's growing fast. So these are disruptive features. I know there haven't been a lot of cardiac presentations, but having it be fully implanted is highly innovative. Pumping from a different part of the heart to where it's pumping there, that's innovative. The ventricle remains intact. That's a working part of your heart. That's an important feature. Just multiple disruptive features. I apologize. I thought this was going to be more biotech-oriented and more blood, so I apologize for that. So the two key components are the blood pump itself and the wireless power. Extensive computational studies have been done on that, the bench testing, the animal testing. We're exceeding our flow requirements, and we're not damaging the blood. It's really difficult to do that. From the wireless power perspective, same thing. It's very rigorous on the bench into the animal lab. We're transmitting enough power, and we're not heating tissue. Also very difficult to do. As I said, it's a big, fast-growing market. The organic growth is shown on the bottom. We believe we can expand it faster to patients that don't want to get an LVAD, to markets outside of the U.S., and to the important diastolic heart failure market. And it's happening quickly. We're moving quick. We plan to get Category B revenue in 2026. It's an active and strong M&A market in this space. A lot of acquisitions, a lot of action for big dollar amounts. And we believe we're checking the right boxes to get into an M&A situation. Large, fast-growing market, efficient solution is desperately needed, strong IP, disruptive features, existing strategic partner, and then it's a platform technology. Don't have time to talk about the platform, but you get the idea. It certainly isn't just me. There's a lot of talent around the table. Our timeline, we closed a big Series A at the end of 2021, in the middle of in vivo studies right now. And my ask today is to contact me if you're interested in knowing more about our Series B, which we intend to close middle of 2024. Thank you.
Okay, so we're now going to take a 10-minute break. So everybody can be back at 2:30. We will resume the presentation.
I found the secret is I just have to refresh and then
Because now we can just build you in right.
Chris, you're next. I suppose after the break.
Yeah, on board chain. Everything all set up?
Yeah, so we got this. It's the big button to advance. The small one to go if you need to. There is a laser pointer. We'll find.
I don't think anybody uses those anymore. All right. So that's perfect. Okay, good. Do you have any issues opening up today?
Emailing it actually about once a week. She keeps saying,
There it is. Okay, fantastic. Let's close this
try and help. Said you're by consuming that, then you would also have fun. So I need that
No, we have a happy hour. Like happy hour night. It starts at like 4:30. close, so I'm like very happy and everybody's like proud. Everybody's like, I give you this, and it's all like trying yeah, it was
Every time you have to. Okay, well that's really useful. If you Alright, because I was happy to do it. Really good. It's one of the let's see if I can
Gentlemen, we're starting.
All right. I'll sit right here.
Okay, so next up we have Chris Aguas with Fortune.
Yes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Aguas. I'm the founder and CEO of 4Chain Technologies. We are a seed stage fintech based right here in New Haven, Connecticut. How are you? Okay. See if we can get the slides to advance here.
Start the timer again.
It's always great when the technology works. Which it does most of the time. It's those edge cases that we always fear. Well, I hope everybody's enjoying the Yale Innovation Summit. It was great to hear Governor Lamont speak earlier this afternoon. All right. Well, again, thank you very much. So again, Chris Aguas, founder and CEO of 4Chain Technologies, based right here in New Haven, Connecticut. A little bit about us. We are building an embedded business-to-business payments network to enable buyers and suppliers to make business-to-business payments much more quickly and efficiently than they can using the dominant payment method today, which in North America, surprisingly, is still the paper check. We embed our solution within partners like software platforms and online marketplaces that have large numbers of buyers and suppliers already using their platforms, and we enable them to add payments and financing services that we provide on a white label basis. So we launched our payments network in 2020. We've actually processed over 1.1 billion in business-to-business payment transactions since we started. We have raised during that time about 5.7 million in seed round capital, including from Connecticut Innovations. I should note that we are revenue positive as well. And we are starting exploratory discussions for our next financing, which we would like to raise over the course of the next couple of quarters. So if we're a company that might be of interest to you, please don't hesitate to get in touch after the presentation. So this is the fundamental problem that we're solving. If you're a consumer, the payments industry has done a phenomenal job of making payments quick, easy, and cheap for you as a consumer to make, whether you're paying a small business or a large business. You have at your fingertips a whole variety of electronic payment channels. But the funny thing is, if you're a business looking to pay another business for goods and services, which is about a $40 trillion market in North America, depending on what segment of it and what industry you're in, somewhere between a third and two-thirds of those payments are actually still being settled via paper checks. And of course, those are costly, inefficient, and increasingly in today's world, they're fraud-prone. So it's really problematic. So we started CoreChain to solve that specific problem. The way we're solving it is actually using blockchain, but not the blockchain that you think about when you think about cryptocurrencies. We're talking about enterprise blockchain, which is the underlying foundational technology of the currency networks that can be used to do so many other things. So we've built a whole variety of services that enable buyers and suppliers to connect directly to exchange both data and funds for settlement of payment obligations. Again, these are not cryptocurrencies. We settle our funds today traditionally using existing business-to-business settlement rails. We think there is a world in the future where assets, digital assets, and things like tokenized deposits can be used to exchange settlement value between buyers and suppliers, but we're not there yet. We have a product in market today that exists on a white label basis as well as branded called CoreChain Pay, and this is a tool that enables in particular mid-market companies to make digital payments to their buyers and suppliers quickly and easily. It's a revenue add for the channel partners that distribute this product with us. Like I said, we go to market on an embedded model. But where we're going with this and where we see the future going is to an environment and a world where we have what we call Zelle for B2B. With apologies to the folks from Early Warning Systems, the notion here is a real-time business-to-business payment network that I can use as a business manager to make payments to my suppliers literally at the touch of a button without having to gather all kinds of upfront information, without having to deal with paper checks, and without having to interact with multiple systems. We have a fantastic leadership team that we're very proud to have built. I'm here with my co-founder, RJ Herrick, as well as our SVP of Operations, Maria Bwaji, so feel free to talk to any of the three of us post this session if you'd be interested in learning a little bit more about CoreChain. We have some phenomenal velocity that we've been able to build over the course of the last 3 years since we started. We're growing in our payments volume, we're growing in our channel partners, and of course, we're growing in revenue. So very exciting to be on this path, and again, appreciate the support of the entire New Haven and Connecticut ecosystem in getting this far. Thank you very much, and again, we're CoreChain Technologies.
So next we have Lynn Fiellin with Playable.
Hi. Thank you for getting both Fiellin and Playable right. That's an accomplishment right there. So I'm Lynn Fiellin. I am the founder of Playable. I'm also a physician researcher at Yale and the founding director of the Play to Prevent lab at Yale. So that lab is where we spun the company out of. The lab focuses on developing and evaluating video games as interventions to target the most critical health outcomes in students.
Yes.
And these are the problems we're solving. Every year in the U.S., over 2 million adolescents struggle with substance misuse, 5 million youth have at least one mental health issue, and 10 million adolescents contract a sexually transmitted infection. And this is paired with a dismal scarcity of support for these issues in adolescence.
Good luck. Yeah.
So this has been the focus of the lab for the last 12 years, and now the focus of Playable. Playable is a behavioral health company that markets and distributes this evidence-based portfolio of serious games that prevent and reduce adolescent risk behaviors. And these are the milestones so far as part of the lab that have now led us to establish Playable. We have 5 video game interventions that have been developed and validated using the most rigorous scientific methods. We have distributed over 420,000 logins to teens over 40,000 downloads on the App Store. The lab has brought in over $15 million in NIH and foundation funding. And because of the increase in demand, especially during the pandemic, we spun out Playable, which focuses again on the marketing and distribution of our games. We now have paying customers. So this is the market that we're in, the serious games market, that has an explicit and carefully thought out educational purpose while still being entertaining. Market growth in 2023 is expected to be $10.2 billion. We're targeting the 40 million adolescents, 42,000 schools, 13,000 school districts, commercial payers, as well as direct to families. And these are our games. This is our portfolio of evidence-based games. Broadly, they focus on substance misuse, mental health, and sexual health. And really what sets us apart is our evidence. So this is 12, 13 years of evidence that has been produced through our lab, large-scale randomized controlled trials covering several years of following outcomes in teens. And we've been able to demonstrate with this work that our games are effective, they're engaging, and that they have the impact that we look to establish. So beyond the health benefits, we also can see important cost benefits. So for example, with our Play Smart game, which focuses on the prevention of opioid misuse, we expect a 15% reduction in risk for opioid misuse in kids who play our game. So that means the value of averting one opioid use disorder in this age group, 16 to 19, translates to $390,000 savings to the healthcare sector, $525,000 to the taxpayer, and close to $3.5 million to society. This impact has also been seen in the lay press. We've had some really nice coverage, both through this article by the Washington Post, then subsequently through NBC News. And then most recently, we were added as an important resource for youth mental health by the Office of the U.S. Surgeon General. So how do we make money? So our sales efforts to date have really focused on educators. We're now pivoting to clinicians, to health systems, as well as to payers. Our pricing is based on customer type. Smaller groups, less than 500, is individual pricing, and now we're working our way through the enterprise pricing, and that's going to be established soon. To date, we just started selling late in the fall. We have 11 customers. That may not sound like that many, but that's paired with increasing interest. We probably get about 50 to 60 requests every week from educators for our games. And we have ongoing discussions with a number of larger enterprise contracts, including federal agencies, nonprofits, as well as a couple of payers. This is our team that gets the work done. Myself, Anusha Raja, is an alum from both the School of Management here as well as the School of Medicine, an amazing advisor team that has really helped lead us with the requisite expertise and experience, as well as funding from the Blavatnik Fund, which has been absolutely fundamental. We've completed 2 phases in building additional technologies and are deep into a 3rd phase. And these are just some of our milestones, past, current, and future. You can see them here. We'll have an e-poster, which you can see all of this with more time. We're focused on recruiting a CEO and bringing in seed funding. Thank you.
Next we have Rohan Khera with Insight AI.
Hello, everyone. Okay. Insight AI. ECG, Insight to AI. It's a novel paradigm in cardiovascular disease diagnostics. I'm Rohan Khera. I'm a cardiologist and data scientist at Llyod. I'm joined by Veer Sangha, who is a Yale computer science graduate, and Harun Kram, who's a renowned cardiovascular outcome researcher, and other members of my team who are here today. The problem we're trying to solve is for the majority of cardiovascular disorders today, we rely on advanced cardiac imaging for both diagnosis and treatment monitoring, making it impossible for us to get enough people enrolled in clinical trials, enough people on therapies, and then making treatment itself very cost prohibitive for many of our indications, and for our stakeholders in pharma and healthcare. We thought there had to be a better solution for diagnosing these conditions. And we focused on ECGs. These age-old paper printouts that you see on the top left, still used in clinical practice, and increasingly stuff that you can get on your Apple Watch, on any wearable device. In our lab at Yale, we built a large repository of individuals who had undergone cardiac imaging and ECGs, built deep learning models that are designed to detect these disorders directly from images or photos of ECGs and from wearable devices. So that now we have this transformative technology that using this low-cost ECG tool, we can diagnose disorders that humans cannot see on these ECGs and are available world over and increasingly accessible on your watch, on your phone, directly at the level of the person. So what we are doing right now is we can scan the entirety of health systems of people who have undergone an ECG before ever and identify anybody who's had a misdiagnosis of a cardiovascular disorder that we can pick up using our tools. Not only health system level screens, we can offer this directly to hospitals and to clinicians to use in their practice to do this diagnosis while they're acquiring ECGs in their clinical practice. And we're targeting a very important area, an unmet need, an area which has seen substantial investment in novel pharmaceutical development. And who are our customers? Anybody who's ever had an ECG or will have an ECG in the future. Anybody who's getting an ECG on their watch right now or will get in the future can use our technology to not only know if they have a rhythm disorder, but also if they have these advanced structural heart disorders that lurk under the skin. And it's just not one product, it's a suite of products. We have many separate disorders that we diagnose using ECGs that span different elements of the heart, valve disorders, structural heart disorders, disorders of the muscle, each with a different stakeholder, different pharma partner, many of whom are working directly with us today. And within the next 12 months, many of these, we would be in various stages of regulatory approval, including one that we are filing for breakthrough device designation in the next few weeks. And we have a multi-stage strategy to go to business. And this is specifically designed to make sure that we can impact as many lives as quickly as possible. We are currently working with pharma partners to actually work with hospitals directly to enroll people in clinical trials before we get regulatory approval for our products. Our regulatory team is working hard to get our regulatory approval in the next year so we can have a tool that every clinician in the US can use within the next 12 months. And finally, buoyed by our partners who want community-level screening for these disorders as early as possible, we're working with consumer-facing products which work with wearable devices in the following 12 months. And there are competitors in this space, and these all have an interest in ECG-based diagnostics. But we have a distinguishing feature. We work with photos of ECGs directly. And if any clinician in the room would tell you that there is no access to raw voltage data for a clinician in their practice, even though all these competitors trying to work with raw voltage data. We have built tools that span multiple different disorders, often exceeding all our competitors. And then we have diverse populations, built an inner city population, and reliable, robust models. And we have proven beyond doubt that our tools are versatile, are globally interoperable, and can actually be scaled infinitely. And I'll give you one example, and one of the last things I would mention, is this tool, Smart LV. This detects if you have a weak heart muscle. 5% of US adults have this disorder, and 7 in 8 of those people are not diagnosed before the onset of symptoms. Losing that critical window where you can intervene with interventions and therapies. Many of them are being developed every day. And what we have done so far, we've built this tool, we've actually validated in multiple sites, and we have a star regulatory team working with us to get this to breakthrough device. And we're doing this with help from many partners and funding from both internal and external. And we are focusing on a seed round right now, and I'll leave you with this slide, which is a functional demo, which I can show you after the presentation. Thank you.
Next we have Kevin Sheth with Alva Health.
Good afternoon. Most of you and your families already know that in the 21st century, the most important component of healthy aging is taking care of your brain. My name is Kevin Sheth. I'm a practicing stroke neurologist, the director of the Yale Center for Brain and Mind Health, and the co-founder and chief medical officer for Alva Health. We're focusing on ischemic stroke, which affects over 700,000 Americans per year. It's bad, it's costly, it results in disability, but there has been a proven therapy for over 3 decades, which today only 10% of patients nationwide receive. The biggest reason for this is a problem with delay. When you have a delay in effective stroke treatment, you die, you have high rates of disability, and you have rates of minor disability for much larger groups of patients. What's the biggest problem? The biggest problem is passive detection and getting to the hospital in time. Why? Because neurological symptoms are weird and hard to understand. Why? Because disability prevents you from calling 911. And because there's no passive solution. Alva has developed the first real-time wearable solution using the major deficit for stroke, which is motor disability, by placing 2 armbands that have a 30-day battery life and can detect an asymmetry in motor movement in real time that's highly sensitive and specific for real-time stroke detection. We take that patent-protected signature, convert it to a Bluetooth-based app on a phone, link it to a call center, and get you to the hospital faster so you can get those proven available treatments that are already work and already reimbursed by insurers. We've already taken our solution and done 2 clinical studies, one in existing stroke patients here at Yale New Haven Hospital, and a second one in an elderly population in a partnership with Maplewood Assisted Living with really incredible numbers. Just 3 days ago, we received IRB approval to do our first decentralized pilot study for wearability and usability in the community setting. And later this year, we'll be citing our first multi-site proof of concept pilot study, which will give us data for FDA registration. There's a huge market. What are the barriers to entry? Battery life, patent protection, extensive database of wearables in stroke patients, cloud-based solution on Amazon Web Services, and trademarks, which we currently have in progress. I already mentioned the work that we've done and our pilot studies that we're starting now and later this year. We've already had our pre-sub meeting with the FDA. We'll have our definitive trial that starts next year, and then a commercial launch in 25-26. I already introduced myself. We have a crackerjack CEO who has experience in pharma and med tech. We have a chief technology officer who has engineering expertise in stroke monitoring, and a wonderful team from Medtronic to lead our clinical operations, from data science and engineering, and some of the leaders in the field here at Yale and around the country when it comes to acute stroke therapeutics, when it comes to algorithm development, and when it comes to business development. We were named the Global MedTech Innovator Prize not too long ago, and we were the grand prize winner. And then in our overprescribed seed round, we had both private investment and multiple SBIRs that we've won at the phase 1 and phase 2 level, and SBIRs that we're applying for continuous non-dilutive funding on every possible cycle. We've already raised $125K for our seed round, which will occur September 2023. So we are looking and talking to many interested parties. And we've been lucky to have a number of wonderful partnerships here at Yale University, but really academic, industry, scientific, and landscape partners throughout the country. Thank you for your time and for the opportunity to present today.
And now we have Bruce Wexler with C8 Science.
C8 Sciences has developed an entirely new class of treatment for CNS disorders, and we're focusing on the treatment and diagnosis of depression. Depression is the #1 cause of disability worldwide, and in the context of chronic medical illnesses, it reduces both quality and duration of life. For example, a cancer patient with depression has a 20 to 39% decrease in survival. Depression and cardiovascular disease increases mortality more than threefold. Unfortunately, currently available treatments for depression don't work very well. The response rate to medicine is 50%, relapse rate is over 50%, and the burden is felt by the healthcare system as well as by patients and their families. The cost to the hospital of a patient with cancer who's depressed is $235,000 a year compared to $110,000 a year for a cancer patient without depression. So what is digital neurotherapy? Our brains are organized from single cells to cell dyads to local circuits of neighboring neurons to neurosystems that integrate the actions of hundreds of millions of neurons from all across the brain. Cognition and emotion only exist at the neurosystems level, not at the cell level. And of course, it's changes in how we think and feel that constitute a clinical illness. Digital neurotherapy looks like a computer game. However, it consists of carefully crafted perceptual and cognitive tasks that stimulate the brain's own repair mechanisms to restore neurosystem function. For developing DNT, I received an NIH Director's Award for paradigm-changing medical research, and they called my program easily the most sophisticated brain training program ever conceived. We've demonstrated mechanism of action through fMRI studies. You see here a healthy person's brain activation during a verbal memory task, absence of activation in a schizophrenia patient, and normalization of activation after 16 weeks of DNT. Here you see a study by an independent research group showing that our program restores functional connectivity abnormalities in the brain in depressed patients. The red bar indicates the average response rate from 3 published studies when our treatment is added to medicine in patients who have completely failed to respond. Treatment-resistant depression. The gray bar indicates what happens if you add cognitive behavioral therapy. Here's if you add a second medicine. Here's what happens if you add transcranial magnetic stimulation. This is the response rate to depression in a competitor DNT, and they excluded any patient who had failed to respond to medicine. And among the treatments, ours is the only one that also increases cognitive function. Why do we work better? We have more breadth. 9 treatment modules that target neurosystems. Within each module, more than 60 levels defined by incremental variations of the perceptual and cognitive demands made on the trial, more content, a year of therapy as opposed to a month. The same precision allows us to use each trial as a probe of neurosystem function, a biomarker. We collect thousands of responses from each person during the course of the treatment. We then apply machine learning to that to identify groups of patients who might have the same diagnosis but have different underlying pathology, enabling then treatment of people for the disorder that they actually have. We're a lean company. We intend to stay that way. We are only going to do what we do best, which design and create new digital neurotherapies and biomarkers that out-license. We seek out-license partners. We're raising $15 million in venture capital. We have highly experienced scientific and business leadership. Our CEO, Tim Fish, was formerly CFO and VP first at Biogen and then at Illumina. So take-homes, NIH Director's Award for paradigm-changing research, comprehensive and versatile platform technology, 2 high-value propositions, the treatment and the diagnosis, industry-leading treatment for depression in market now, and a business plan that has the potential to solve the problems that other digital therapy companies have had by trying to do everything. Thank you.
Now we have Ben Christensen with cadmium carbon.
Daiell, my name is Ben Christensen. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cambium Carbon. We're on a mission to use technology to make local scalable, and we do that by connecting local supply into national demand. So we're doing this first within wood products, but are on a mission to do that across material types that go into the built environment. The way we source wood right now is long, it's arduous, it's inefficient. Our supply chains are globalized. We end up sending wood cut down in the US to factories in Asia, shipping it back to distributors here in the US, shipping it again and again and again. What does that mean? It's really not environmentally efficient. Massive amounts of emissions are tied to that. And then it's also really not price efficient. A big part of that as well is you can't track it, and supply chain access and data access there is really limited. So what we're building at Cambium Carbon is a platform to switch that model, to build a supply chain for materials that can build a much better future for us by creating a disaggregated supply chain that sources from across the country, that you're able to actually access local materials that are sourced from the city that you're in, that are processed in the city that you're in, and that are ultimately sold in the city that you're in. And so we're already seeing a ton of growth there. We've got 220 different suppliers across the country right now, producing sort of across our supply chain about 110 million in sort of annual value, and seeing that really grow. Our key offering is Carbon Smart Wood. It's a more price and environmentally efficient wood product that can go into pretty much any different building. So we've already worked with tons of key customers. We just finished Microsoft's headquarters. We're launching our third product with Room and Board right now, and we're really plugging in a recurring demand into large buyers. Our core business model here is they purchase from us a large order that, again, is big and is recurring. We then source it through our supply chain using our technology, and we're able to give them a real price advantage, and we also have a really strong take rate. So our gross margin is around 50% right now, so we have a really strong take rate embedded into our business model. We also have a real advantage on the supply side because our technology allows us to aggregate and build the data layer and backbone of this new supply chain. What that actually is we provide a SaaS tool for local wood processors and to be able to track and value their woods, connect it to the internet, and do some traditional SaaS tooling. That then allows us to access that material really quickly and have a really strong price advantage there. We also are really deeply embedded on the demand side. So we're building out the first brand in wood. I don't know how many of you have bought a 2x4 recently, but it probably wasn't branded. And so there's a real opportunity to sit also in the demand side, which is a big part of what we're doing. So a couple things for us. So we raised a seed round, a $3.5 million round last March. Since then, we now have 52 million in committed deals, so a huge pipeline. We're really raising to go and meet that. Did 1.6 million in revenue last year. We're on track to over 2x that this year, tripled our user base. We actually just reached 15 million in sort of gross merchandise value on the platform. So we're seeing really scalable growth there. And again, the biggest thing for us is seeing a lot of these large recurring clients. So if you're interested, we're building Patagonia's new stores with our wood, and it's plugging into lots of different spaces. A couple of things that we're really going for in our current raise, again, expanding our platform, being able to develop that at scale. We also are on track to get a really large chunk of IRA funding because this is, again, a large climate solution and then also can really recenter jobs back in our cities as we build out these new manufacturers. We're backed by a number of really great investors. Our lead investor, Adrian Fenty, former mayor of Washington, D.C., helped us plug in on public space. Steve Case, founder of AOL, a number of other folks on the cap table who have helped us really grow. And the biggest thing is overall, if we do this at scale, we can create a massive climate solution. In the US alone, 267 million metric tons a year from utilizing local wood resources instead of cutting down trees and forests, and that's a really big part of it. I'm co-founder and CEO, but have an amazing team around me who helps us really scale. Our CTO exited for over $1 billion to Asurion in his last SaaS startup. Our VP of sales comes from a deep background in architecture and design. One of the first employees at Wayfair leads our ops team, and we're so fortunate to have tons of great investors. So thank you all. Would love to chat more about our current raise.
We now have Guillermo Espiga with Anticevic.
Thank you. My name is Guillermo Espiga. I'm the head of business development for Encycle. And what is the problem that we're trying to solve? We're going through the clean energy transition. It's very exciting. We want wind power, solar power. We're moving away from internal combustion engine and moving to electric vehicles. And that's great. It's really exciting. But these technologies need a lot of what is called critical metals: nickel, cobalt, lithium, rare metals. And in the US right now, we don't have the mining capabilities, the refining capabilities, or even the recycling capabilities. So where these metals are coming from right now? They come from countries that are geopolitically challenged or, from an environmental and social perspective, have, questionable practices. On top of that, when we look at the metal industry itself, it has been the same for decades. I mean, we have the pyrometallurgy in order to refine the metals. That's basically applying heat melting the metals. That requires a lot of energy and a big carbon footprint. The other technology is hydrometallurgy. It's a lot of nasty chemicals to separate the metals, and that has a big environmental footprint. So we're trying to change that. We are a metal refining technology. We're using a new technology. It's a different way of refining things. We're using technology that is localized. I mean, the traditional technologies are large, centralized facilities that take years to build and hundreds of millions of dollars. We're trying to localize that. Our technology is based modular. We refine the metals where they are needed. So that's a very important component. We can co-locate with a recycling facility, for example, that have not millions of tons, but a limited amount of tons. We reduce the carbon footprint. Our process is significantly lower from a carbon footprint perspective. And the third one is flexibility. Our technology really can treat, not only lithium-ion batteries, which we are focused right now, but a number of other critical metals like rare metals, PGMs, et cetera, et cetera. The technology is called electroextraction. Basically, our main inputs are water and electricity. It's like a water Brita filter. We put the metals in the solution and apply electricity and basically precipitate the metals. A very elegant solution. One of the benefits of being modular and using water and electricity is that it's very easy to permit, and we can deploy very quickly. Between 6 to 12 months, we can have a unit up and running. This is a third-party validation. Our carbon footprint is up to 92% lower compared to similar processing mining, and up to 44% lower compared to alternative recycling models. And it's flexible. I mean, all these are critical metals. Right now, we're really focused on lithium-ion batteries, recycling that. But again, rare metals, those are needed for EV motors, from E-ways, for turbines. PGMs, that are needed in electrolyzers for hydrogen. So finally, where we are, we have proven our technology in our facilities in Massachusetts. We are building our first commercial facility in Ohio. We're going to be processing what is called black mass, that's shredded lithium-ion batteries, end of life for manufacturing scrap. And we're going to be producing pre-cathode materials. Basically, these materials go back into the supply chain of lithium-ion batteries. We're going to be, we expect to be the first refining facility, recycling refining facility in the U.S. And we are working with a number of partners. We have, between our partners, we have OEMs, these are car manufacturers. They want us to close the loop in their materials. We're working with consumer electronics. You know, your laptops and cell phones, they all have lithium-ion batteries, a lot of cobalt there. And most importantly, recycling companies. There is no real recycling in the U.S. What we do is we collect, we sort, and we export. We want to co-locate with these companies and refine the metals here. And finally, mining. That's an ambition that we have in the long term. So we are a Series B company. We just closed on Series B, our first closing, $20 million. We're seeking $30 million more. Again, I'll be around if you are interested in learning more about the technology or capital raising activities. Thank you.
And now we have Alan Anticevic with Manifest Technologies, Inc.
Yeah.
It's great to be here. My name is Alan Anticevic. I'm an associate professor of psychiatry and neuroscience at Yale, and I'm very excited to talk to you about Manifest. We're still a stealth company. We're post-seed, so you won't find much about us, but we'd be happy to talk to you more as I go through this deck. So our mission is to transform CNS therapeutics through precision computational neuroimaging. So I want you to imagine a future in which every person who has a central nervous system disease can get neuro-informed, precise drug targeting. And so we're here to solve that problem. So this is our standard disclaimer. We've assembled a team of international leaders in computational psychiatry and neuroimaging. I'm joined by my co-founders, Marcus Helmer, who's a CTO in our company, and my co-founder, John Murray. We have a deep bench of advisors who are leaders in this sector, as well as people who are experts in computational neuroimaging. So CNS drug development is tremendously risky and really expensive. So I want you to focus on this number in the middle. 4% of drugs go from pre-selection all the way to market. The reasons why these drugs fail in CNS is because fundamentally we have an inability to select the right person for the right drug. So if we double click on this problem, you have a cascade of issues that's driving cost and efficiency such that trials fail too late. Lack of prioritization of agents, given poor animal to human mapping, low confidence of mapping neural targets to actual symptoms, suboptimal selection of people who can actually benefit from the drug. And this creates the biggest failure in the transition from phase 2 to 3, which is a huge driver of cost and inefficiency. And that's how you get to that cumulative 4%. So how do we change this? So we're solving key cost and efficiency barriers in CNS clinical trials through a proprietary platform spun out of the co-founders' laboratories here at Yale that addresses 3 questions: developing agents with quantitative animal to human neural target mapping, confirming those neural targets in humans in a way that's quantitatively linked to symptoms, and then finally enriching with the same data objects patient populations that are maximally responsive to drugs. And I'll show you a demo teaser for how this works. So our platform automates multimodal animal and human imaging and analytics to address these key bottlenecks. So if you do this, you fundamentally transform the probability of an asset making it to market. And if you boost the probability of success in the transition from phase 2 to 3 by 50% in just 1 year, that's $1 billion, up to $1 billion of value per asset. And there's hundreds of these out there that are shelved, and this is a massive market. So This technology is built on 10 years of innovation in my laboratory and my co-founder's laboratory. We started in 2012 when an NIH Director's Award awarded to my group that incubated the tech. We had a number of successful commercial collaborations that gave us the signals that we're ready to go. We had a patent awarded that's part of our tech transfer estate in the company, and we have proprietary IP that we're building on. And most recently, Yale side, we've deployed a clinical trial that uses the technology where we have the first ever primary brain-based readout, again, primary brain-based readout for a drug in early course schizophrenia, and that's public domain information. So here is how this works. So we can fundamentally alter the success of a clinical trial. I'm showing you a status quo situation where this is a failed depression trial. The effect size here for sertraline versus placebo was 0.17. That's commercially not viable. That's a failure. It would have required 411 people to succeed. So through our platform, what we're actually capable of doing is we can take neuroimaging data, we can optimize alignment against existing a priori targets from people's neuroimaging data in relation to FDA-approved clinical questionnaires and create a selection procedure that allows us to enrich a trial using questions only, not imaging, but imaging is the decision support tool. With this, the effect size goes up to 0.61, and this would have required 35 people. This is our first proof of concept, and we're working on more. We would be super excited to talk to you. Marcus is also here in the crowd, my co-founder, and so look forward to questions.
That ends all of our presentations. Thank you to our presenters. Many of them are still in this room. Feel free to reach out to them and have a conversation. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you.
I have the wrong road. Session, are you going to that? I wanted to go to, you know? Yeah. It's at 6:30.
I have lower ideas on Instagram. Just type that in and you'll find me connected to things. Oh my goodness. It's like a perfect. What's up?
Josh, 5 months now.
So yeah, I'm gonna bring this to.
Okay, you guys are
I haven't had to use that. I haven't been actually lifting up the stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking There's a legacy member of Make It, but it also comes down, it's like a big difference of other adventures. I was wondering, do you have a contract line for automation for your refinement?
No, I mean, we are working with the first project with
It's a lot of
that they do automation, but
one of my clients, technology, the automation controls, they help set up that. They come in and actually set up your automation, your PLCs, like everybody's actually get that.
Exactly.
And they are located in New Hampshire and Connecticut. They're located in New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
yeah, no, so we're the first project we're using process, which is
Yes, maybe they're price competitive. I've heard of small first I love it's getting away from the global logistics and having more local sequences.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, right. That's why you stopped.
We are a group of people that are business.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would do.
They're kind of it doesn't matter. People see the FDA approval.
Yeah, and if you can get insurance,
Yeah, no, really exciting times.
That's a different market already.
It's exciting.
Yes, especially if you can start processing old like boards, like
oh yeah, absolutely.
a lot of great material.
I mean, our challenge is finding having the people willing to. We have a
Seeing the fans come in, facility, stories that they tell. Where are you at with your fundraising?
Yeah, I have a prototype. And then I just been doing like coverage. So I'm going to be having next week for their launch. I just got my patent file, my application yesterday.
So they are
probably going to be for the next phase. I was wondering how.
Hopefully you and Ken can how much you
I'm trying to do like
well differentiated. Really?
It's interesting because the physical world will find out next week too. So not that many people start here
So that's part of what
I'm getting encouraged. You guys started this last year, big events here. This seems to be a lot.
Da bin ich jetzt als Musiker, bin eher, sagst du, das ja irgendwie habe, ich bin halt nicht dabei und
creating good habits around pointers. Kids are our first homes. They try kind of way first positive enforcement. Advice helps them that create that positive enforcement. So on that October, just 5,000 a couple weeks ago, and hopefully continue on. That's kind of, we were there for 3 years. And launch, we also hired 3 engineering team members to manage the. You've got it, you know, potentially one, you're not targeting type A parents. Life is around now. They're target clients. Friend's house and say, hey, remember how much